This is going to be one of the shortest videos that I have filmed in quite some time because I read a grand total of 3.5 books in the month of June. Obviously I can only talk about the 3 that I finished, the half doesn't even count. Yeah, not a good reading month, all things considered. In May I read 10 books, which is quite a lot. I normally average about 6, so to read half of my usual number is a little bit disappointing. Hopefully July will be much better. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump in and I'll talk about the 3 that I read. So the first book that I read was You Had Me At Ola by Alexis Daria. I listened to this entirely on audio. At the start of the month I had a week off to do some like DIY and decorating. I don't own the physical copy of this book. I listened to it, as I said, entirely on audio, and it was very entertaining. It's a very good audiobook. This is contemporary romance and we are following our main character Jasmine, who is a soap opera star about to get her big break on the country's biggest streaming service. She's going to be in a bilingual romantic comedy. However, at the outset of filming she is involved in a messy breakup with a famous singer, and as a result ends up splashed all over the tabloids. And so she creates something called her leading lady list, which is a list of steps and stages and things that she needs to do in order to hold on to her leading lady dreams, her leading lady hopes. And then we have the love interest Ashton, who is known for being quite remote and hostile towards his co-workers, so there is a little bit of a grumpy sunshine trope in this book, although as readers we do find out why Ashton is the way that he is quite early on in the story. And equally this is a big opportunity for him because he has previously been quite big in the telenovela scene, but his last character was killed off, and so he's coming from a place of, is this also going to be the end of his career type thing. So it's important for them both that the TV show does well. As I said, this was very entertaining. It was very easy to listen to. It was sweet and quirky, a little bit predictable in places. What I did like was that interspersed throughout the story we had scenes from the TV show, which I thought was quite an interesting take on it. Overall it was just okay. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed listening to it. I think it would be really quick to read in a physical copy as well. Yeah, if you like contemporary romance and you want something a little bit different, then I would recommend this one. Next I read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is a contemporary cozy murder mystery about a group of people who live in a retirement village, and every week they meet to look at unsolved murder cases, and then right on their doorstep someone that they know is murdered, and so they find themselves at the heart of a real live investigation. I liked this. This was one that I also part listened to on audio and part read. The audiobook is very good if you like to consume books that way. It's a very quick and entertaining read. I would say that the murder mystery element of this book was probably the weakest part overall. It's very much about the characters. The author does a good job of leaving red herrings and making it so the reader constantly has to guess and isn't quite sure what the outcome is going to be. But as a result, I feel like it was built up and built up and built up, and then the actual person who was responsible and the reasons why were a little bit underwhelming. Might just be me. But for me it didn't matter so much because I really liked the setting and I really liked the characters, and it does a very good job of exploring how these people are all forced together through age and proximity, but they have come and they have found friendship. And also, just because these people are in their 70s, their 80s, their 90s, doesn't mean that they don't still have interests and hopes. It doesn't mean that they haven't led really interesting lives that would be quite fascinating to hear about and discover. And the author has certainly left several trails of breadcrumbs if he then wanted to go on to develop those characters' stories further. I think it would be really fascinating to kind of look at their pasts and see what they got up to. Definitely one of our main characters, Elizabeth, she was clearly some kind of spy or something like that, some government agent. So yeah, very intrigued to see if he's going to develop that particular storyline further. And that's pretty much it. It was entertaining, it was easy to read, I did enjoy it. There was another niggle that once I'd noticed, I was like, this is really bizarre, but it must be quite a stylistic choice, because actually it's also happening in the book that I am currently reading, which is that every character, bar our very main core of characters, every other character was always referred to by their full name. So they would be in a conversation and the author wouldn't say Ian said, he would say Ian Bentham said, and it happened all the way through. It was one of those niggly things that I say all the time. Once I'd seen it, I couldn't then unsee it, and I was like, why? I don't understand why we keep being told all these characters' full names. We know who everybody is by now. But there is quite a large cast of characters, so that might be why. Also, it might just be a stylistic thing, as I said. Yeah, overall I gave it 4.5 stars. I was really taken with the characters, and I think if you enjoy easy, cozy, a little bit of humour sprinkled through this type of book, and the mystery element doesn't need to be key for you because it has such a strong cast of characters, then I think that you would like this, and I would definitely look to pick up the next one in this series. And then the final book that I managed to finish this month, which I think was also the stumbling block for my reading month as a whole, we have Harvest by Jim Crace. This was my book club's pick for June. As always, I will leave my link to information about my book club in the description box down below, but this was the book that we picked for June, and it's almost entirely on me why I struggled with it. Number one, I went in thinking it was a thriller. It's not. It's a literary fiction. Literally says across the front of the cover that it was the winner of a literary award. And also, I looked at the size of it and thought, this will be a really easy, quick read, and actually it's not that at all. It's quite a weighty book to get through, and it's not one that you can necessarily sit and read in one sitting. And I also started this book on audio, and that was not a winner for me. Normally I have success with audiobooks. That was not the case for this one. I had no idea what was going on. I persevered for quite some time, and then I had to just call it quits and literally go back to the beginning and read it through from the start, which again took time. So, but all that being said, and my feelings aside, this was one of the most interesting discussions that we've had as a book club, because everybody got something different from it. Everybody came with a different opinion, so it was very interesting to discuss it, which I think literary fiction probably has the potential to do, because it doesn't necessarily fit neatly into a genre. And honestly, I'm going to struggle to tell you what this book is about without spoiling it, but also in a way that makes sense, because we don't know when this book is set, but it definitely has a historical feel to it. We are in a farming village and we meet our main character, Walter, and at the very beginning of the book, 3 strangers have come to Walter's village, and by the end of the book, everything in Walter's life has been turned completely upside down on its head. And that's pretty much all I can say without giving away any major spoilers. Various things happen. You could ask the question whether Walter was intrinsic in some of those things happening or not. The lighting has just massively changed because the sun has just disappeared. Sorry about that. Yeah, there's just lots of different things that happen. Some that are Walter's fault or that Walter is involved in, and some that are removed from him. It's interesting because everything that happens to Walter, all the major things that happen around him and to him, tend to happen when he's not there. So we get second and third hand accounts of what has gone on, which keeps you as a reader constantly at a remove. One of the people in the book club summed this up in a way that I think is highly accurate. She said it's almost like reading the ramblings of an unhinged man, in that you are literally all over the place. You go from one thought to another thought to another thought, and you don't really know what's going on. And I would say that pretty much encapsulates this book. There were things I liked about it. I liked the writing style, even though it's quite flowery and quite weighty. I liked that it lent an atmosphere. The author does a really good job of making sure that you don't really quite know what's going on or what's going to happen. I think where this book was let down for me is that I like my books to have a point, and I kept waiting for a twist or for something to happen, and it just never quite materialised, and so I didn't then find myself getting on with it. And as a result, I just went straight down the line and gave it 3 stars, because honestly I don't know how to explain what this book is about and what happens in a way that makes it sound like something happens. It's just very bizarre. It's a very bizarre book, and I think it's a very particular choice for people. If you like literary fiction, you may well really enjoy this. I think I said in the live that I've got a couple of teacher friends who I think would love this book, English teacher friends who I think would love this book because they would love to unpack it and dissect it. But yeah, I think it's quite a particular taste. So there you go, they are the books that I read in the month of June. Not a very impressive list, and none really that I think, wow, that really blew my mind. Hopefully July will be better. As always, do let me know what your favourite read of the month was, or let me know what you're reading now. I always love to chat more with you in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you are all keeping safe and well. Take care, and I'll see you soon.